One important aspect of the history of Sega's almighty Blue Bullet is the rather lengthy process that Sega went through to actually create him. Sonic was hardly the first in line to replace Sega's previous mascot, the now discarded Alex Kidd. A whole load of designs were thought up and judged as unworthy of the lead role. I fancy a lot of them are lost to time, but a few of the ones that made the shortlists at least ended up with their own games in the end. Kid Chameleon and Rystar both started out life as potential company mascots who were beaten by Sonic. And so did this, Greendog the Beached Surfer Dude from 1992. Most people have pretty fond memories of Kid Chameleon and Rystar's games, but Greendog? Not so much. Looking at the design itself, I can't think how Greendog was ever even potentially a viable mascot. I can barely even make out what he's supposed to be. He looks like a human, but he has no facial features at all, which is a bit creepy. And in-game, is that fin on his head supposed to be his hair or a hat? I honestly don't know. The aforementioned other two are at least perfectly on brand. Kid Chameleon is cool and has attitude, and Rystar is totally cute. Greendog is, what? Forget looking at him for 5 minutes and not being able to figure it out. I've looked at Greendog for 24 bloody years and I still haven't been able to figure it out. Anyway, we do at least know that he is, according to the title, a beached surfer dude. And one day, when he's out catching the waves, he suddenly gets attached to a necklace which he can't take off. A mysterious but obviously bikini-clad woman informs Greendog that the necklace points the way to the pieces of a talisman dotted around various Caribbean islands, which he'll need to find with the help of his trusty frisbee and pedalcopter. As long as he has the necklace, every animal in the world will attack him on sight. So yeah, cool concept. Very, driftery, I guess. Not that lousy character design or plot are enough to kill a game, certainly not a platformer in 1992 when this sort of thing was obviously a dime a dozen. The weirdness of Greendog could have even been a positive if the game had been a good one. Unfortunately, it's really not. At best, it's average. It starts off okay with a very Pitfall-esque first level. It does have that calypso music, which is very different sounding, not your usual game soundtrack, and by far the most interesting thing about the game, and the graphics aren't bad at all. Trouble is, the game just never manages to progress from there. After throwing the odd bit of stuff at the wall, the inclusion of either a skateboard or a pair of skates for certain stages, a frustrating but quite cool looking underwater stage, around the second half of the game it feels as though the entire development team gave up. And these aren't really problems with the controls or anything like that, which are perfectly serviceable, it's fundamental issues with the design itself. One conceit of the game is that every stage ends with a section in an ancient cave, where you find the piece of the talisman. This is fine, but they barely do anything with it. The second to last cave section is a completely uninspired corridor affair, and the last section, the final level of the game no less, is literally the two skateboard-centric ancient stages that you've already played, glued together. No final boss or anything like that. The game just ends in a way that's actually kind of insulting when you think about it. The game has 6 stages, for Christ's sake. You really should at least try to make them all, different. It seems like the folks behind Greendog wanted to create a relaxing, slow-paced platformer, something that's the complete opposite of a Sonic or a Mario. They do succeed with the slow-paced, but unfortunately it ends up being boring instead. Too much waiting around, not enough decent ideas, all very basic. It just misses the mark totally in execution. The look of the game does have its fans, and you might go for it too. It depends on how much you like the more dithered, subtle shall we say, look that Western Mega Drive games tend to have. It works great in that underwater stage, less so in others, although in any case it's not enough to save design that's this flat. It's nice, good graphics, but it's all the game has going for it. It's a shame because there is potential. As mentioned, I do quite like the music. None of the tunes in Greendog are likely to stick in your head, but the Calypso soundtrack is different and not the sort of thing you'd hear in a game from this time, and it does work. If the design had been better, there could have been potential for this game to thrive, at least as a rather curious platformer that wasn't like anything else at the time. But in the end, it's just a boring, lazy and average one. In the end, the pieces of the talisman combine to form an awesome looking surfboard, and the credits crawl promises more adventures for Greendog in the future. But in the cold light of day, that obviously wasn't ever going to happen. It is pretty crazy to think that this could have been at least considered as Sega's main mascot, although what's closer to the truth is that, at the time, Sega just flat out wanted as many mascots as they could get, which is why a lot of the also-rans behind Sonic ended up with games of their own. Alas, Greendog ended up getting swept under the waves. It was pushed heavily, so it seems like a lot of Mega Drive owners have some sort of experience with this game, but it's a very Marmite type game. People love it or hate it, and rarely anything in between. And I guess you know which camp I fall into by now. Just, ugh, get it away. The thing freaks me out. See you tomorrow.